I'd rather find the fine gold. That proves that your recoveries are working really well when you have that super fine gold.
Yeah,
Anybody can catch a nugget.
At the beginning of the season, no one imagined a lost claim could cause such a massive explosion. Land abandoned for years where any miner would recoil at the sight of water, mud, and broken edges. Freddy and Juan received a signal that instantly made them serious. The depth reading suddenly spiked. The density reached almost 7.9x, which normally occurs only in heavy mineral zones. Something big was hidden here. When they lifted the first scoop, a faint glint emerged from the mud. At first, they thought it might be rusted metal, but when the machine peeled away the entire layer on the second pass, a golden reflection emerged that silenced the entire camp. Freddy simply said, "Dude, this isn't normal gold. This is a full pocket." Sensors continued to confirm that the bottom read a 3.5-ton equivalent load, meaning the size of the gold deposit was insane. But the real twist came when, while clearing drainage, the mud suddenly began to collapse inward. That collapse exposed what had probably been buried underground for 10 to 12 years. Chunky, thick gold slabs, a deposit estimated to be worth approximately $125 million. No documents, no old claim records, just a hidden stash. Who left it there and why? This remains a question to this day. Now, one thing is clear here. This story is not a normal mining story. If you miss the video, you'll miss the biggest twist of the season. And yes, be sure to subscribe, because the next part is going to be even more dangerous. And without you, the fun won't be complete. When Freddy and Juan first arrived at this lost claim, they immediately felt a strange heaviness in the air. The weather was clear and the site was quiet, but as soon as they stepped onto the ground, they both stopped. They felt a slight vibration from beneath, as if the ground was hollow or something large was moving beneath. Juan immediately looked at Freddy and said, "Bro, you feel that? This place doesn't feel normal." The first major sign came as soon as the machines were lowered onto the site. As the loader applied pressure to the ground, the soil began to vibrate in a strange way. A vibration that wasn't natural, as if a compressed layer was trapped underneath. Freddy picked up the soil with his hand and examined it, and the texture was also different. Smooth, heavy, and unusually wet, as if groundwater had been circulating here all night. They both realized that the surface was calm, but something was very off underneath. Standing in a corner of the site, they performed a sound test. A light stomp and an echo returned. This was the weirdest part because it's impossible to get an echo in an open mud zone. Freddy advanced the ground probe, and the meter needle jumped even at a depth of just 6 to 7 feet, as if there was a metallic sheet or hard surface hidden beneath. Curiosity and fear were clearly visible on Juan's face. He laughed and said, "Man, what have we come to? This looks like a haunted claim." The machine's behavior wasn't exactly stable either. The excavator's tracks were slipping slightly, as if there were empty pockets somewhere underneath. Air bubbles were also seen emerging from beneath the loader, indicating trapped gases within the mud. This is rare and indicates that heavy material may have been buried for years. Freddy signaled the crew to stop and said, "Guys, slow down. The ground isn't behaving normally." All of this made one thing clear. This claim hadn't been abandoned for nothing. There was something here that previous miners either didn't understand or left out of fear. But for Freddy and Juan, it wasn't a city of fear, but of curiosity. They knew that such anomalies were often the first clues to a major discovery, and that's where their true journey began. A journey that would ultimately lead to the $125 million jackpot. As soon as Freddy and Juan activated the GPR and density meter for the first time, the readings on the screen stunned everyone. Normal gold zones have densities between 4x and 5x. This is common mining data, but here the meter suddenly jumped to 7.2, then 7.5, and then straight to 7.9x. This reading only occurs in rare high-density metals, or when there's a highly concentrated gold deposit. Freddy stared at the screen and simply said, "Dude, this is insane. This data looks fake, but it's real." The crew scanned again to rule out a technical glitch. The second reading also came back 7.8x. The third reading remained stuck at 7.9x. as if the meter were indicating a massive block was buried underneath. Juan joked, "If this is gold, then we're going to make history." But Freddy couldn't even laugh. There was excitement and fear in his eyes because such abnormal density is rare and sometimes means there could be an ancient, man-made structure underneath. Curiosity had increased. Freddy marked the area and instructed the excavator to dig slowly. As the machine took its first cut, the mud's behavior became even more strange. As the scoop was lifted, a faint thump sound came from below, as if soil was being removed from a hollow object. Sensors spiked again, and the ground's vibrations increased slightly. Confusion and seriousness were visible on the crew's faces. Everyone felt that something big, very big, was hidden beneath. And then suddenly, the ground revealed its true form. Without any warning, the middle of the mud pit collapsed completely. It seemed as if there was a large cavity beneath the ground, unable to bear the weight. The front of the excavator sagged about 1 to 2 feet below. The operator panicked and tried to pull the machine back. The crew immediately shouted, "Back! Back! Everybody move!" The pit's collapse was so rapid that the entire 10 to 12-foot radius sank to the ground simultaneously. Mud began to be drawn in like a whirlpool, as if pulled by a suction force from below. Water surged up. The soil appeared to be boiling, and the surface was becoming more unstable by the second. Juan said in panic, "Freddy, this isn't a normal sinkhole. There's something hollow underneath, and it's huge." Freddy tried to control the situation, but the tension was evident in his own voice. He ordered the crew to retreat and park the machines in a safe zone. The excavator barely came out, rolling. If he had delayed another 10 seconds, the machine would have sunk completely. Some of the crew retreated in fear. Others quickly gathered their tools. But everyone's eyes were fixed on the pit, where the mud was constantly swirling and dull metallic sounds like something heavy colliding were coming from below. The pit that formed after the collapse looked deep, dark, and extremely suspicious. The mud was slowly settling, but a round depression was visible in the center, as if a large solid object lay beneath. Freddy took a static reading. The meter jumped to 8.x this time. This was the first time the density meter had crossed the 8x mark. This signal wasn't from a normal deposit. It indicated a massive gold core or a man-made vault. Freddy took a deep breath, looked at the crew and said, "Guys, this is dangerous. But if we retreat, we'll regret it for the rest of our lives. There's something down there, and it's very big." The collapse had revealed the danger, but it also confirmed something. This claim wasn't lost, it was hidden, and buried beneath it was a jackpot-level deposit. After the pit collapse, when the water calmed down a bit, Freddy instructed the machine to slowly remove the mud from the edge again. The operator carefully took a small scoop so as not to disturb what was underneath. As a thin layer of mud was removed to the side, Juan suddenly fell silent. A faint glint appeared in the mud, so faint that at first glance it might have been a random stone. But as sunlight angled across that spot, a sharp golden reflection emerged. The reflection was so clear that the entire crew paused for a moment. Freddy looked down and whispered, "Hold on. Hold on." Juan's hands were shaking. He leaned down, his eyes widened, and his shaky voice uttered, "Bro, that's gold." As he spoke, the rest of the crew recoiled in shock. That small patch of mud shone in a completely unnatural way, as if a layer of pure metal, struggling to hide its true shine even in the midst of the mud. This wasn't a random nugget. It appeared to be an exposed part of a large solid chunk. Freddy immediately activated the sensors and took a reading at that exact spot. The meter first read 6.5x, then 7.1, and within seconds the needle jumped to 7.9x. The entire system gave a sharp beep, indicating an extremely heavy metallic mass beneath. Freddy's face was filled with disbelief because such a high spike indicated only one possibility. A large, dense core, a giant gold slab or solidified deposit beneath. The crew sent a high-frequency probe deeper for a second scan. Upon completion, another shocking reading was obtained. The sensor sent back a broad, thick echo from the bottom, the kind only possible when there's a solid, heavy layer beneath. The probe then detected a faint, hollow echo in the other direction, as if a second layer or chamber had formed beneath. This meant that not just one, but two distinct gold zones existed beneath. Freddy cross-checked the data and found that the total estimated mass readings were about 3.5 tons. This wasn't a normal deposit. It was a treasure-sized stash. Finding so much gold buried in one place is rare and only happens if someone deliberately packed it away. The stickiness of the mud and the smooth surface of the gold indicated that it had been buried there for quite some time, perhaps 8 to 10 years, maybe longer. Juan took another scoop, and as the mud was removed a little more, a large, thick golden strip became even more clearly visible from beneath. It seemed as if a large slab was slowly being revealed. The crew's breath stopped. The only sound in the air was the gentle sound of water and the slow hum of the machines. Freddy said in a calm voice, "Guys, don't touch it yet. We have to find out what's underneath." What the sensors revealed convinced everyone that the collapse wasn't an accident. It was caused by the collapse of a hollow cavity above the deposit. The bottom was literally filled with gold, and the cavity was likely part of an old tunnel or man-made pit. Because of the two-layer anomaly, this discovery wasn't just a jackpot, it also became a historical mystery. The crew's faces were filled with fear, excitement, and the biggest question: if just one corner revealed so much gold, how big would the entire deposit be? And from there began the entire revealed journey of that 3.5-ton monster, which would later reach 125 million. By evening, tensions at the site had risen so high that everyone decided an emergency meeting was necessary at night. The weather report was also bad. Light rain at night and a clear warning of groundwater rise. The crew stood in a circle, the blue glow of portable lights in the middle and the daunting shadow of the collapsed mud pit behind them. Everyone had only one concern. Is it worth the risk, or should we seal the site now and wait until morning? Juan was the first to speak. If the rain intensifies, the entire pit will be submerged, and the reflection that was visible may disappear by morning. The rest of the crew were in fear and confusion. A technician said that the machines were unstable, the mud was shifting every minute, and the reduced visibility at night doubled the risk of an accident. The weather officer also warned them, "Don't overload the pumps or the water pressure could cause the walls to collapse." 2 or 3 crew members clearly stated that the zone was unsafe, and a collapse could happen again. But at the same time, Freddy was quietly looking at the data tablet. Density, echo, core readings, all indicated that this could be a lifetime discovery. A calm seriousness wore on his face. After a moment of silence, Freddy took a deep breath and said, "Guys, listen. We're miners, and miners don't shy away from an opportunity. There's risk. Yes. There's danger. Yes. But what's down there, we've never seen. We dig." There was a strange confidence and determination in his voice. That one line changed the entire atmosphere. The crew looked at each other, and slowly everyone nodded. The decision had been made. No matter what, the digging would continue tonight. The night sky was dark, and a light breeze made the sight even more eerie. As soon as the portable floodlights were turned on, the entire pit looked like a sci-fi scene. Water all around, a deep cavity in the middle, and a mysterious glow hidden beneath the mud. The machines were repositioned, safety ropes were tied, and the pumps were turned on at full capacity. The crew was ready at their stations. Freddy signaled the machine operator to slow dig. The game had begun. The excavator slowly lowered the first scoop. As the bucket scooped up the mud, dark brown water boiled from below. As the mud was removed, a thick, heavy golden crust became visible, as if a large solid block had broken through the upper layer and was peeking through. Juan's eyes widened. "Bro, this is a slab. This actual slab." The slab's surface shine was so smooth that the light reflected off it directly into the crew's eyes. Some more mud was removed, and now the entire chunk became clearly visible. This wasn't a random nugget. It was an 8 to 10 kilo thick layer, like a proper golden plate. As the dig continued, the second, third, and fourth slabs of gold became visible. This wasn't a normal scattered gold deposit at all. The gold here was unusually packed, layer upon layer, as if someone had deliberately compacted and buried it. In the center of the pit, the excavator cut a little deeper. This time, what came out made the entire team's heart stop for a second. A huge, thick nugget was stuck on the edge of the bucket, so large that the operator had to adjust the machine's balance. The nugget weighed at least 1,416 kilograms and was deep yellow, a sign of high-purity gold. Freddy, upon seeing it, said, "This is not a natural formation. Someone placed it." This made it clear that a massive, human-packed gold stash lay beneath. The digging now intensified. Each scoop was exposing new gold crusts, some round nuggets, some heavy chunks, some flat slabs. The layering of the mud indicated that this gold was part of a deposit at least 8 to 12 years old. But the way it was neatly packed didn't resemble a modern placer deposit. It was more like a secret hiding stash. The crew was filled with excitement and fear. The giant golden mass, shining in the glare of the lights, was now clearly visible. And that was just the beginning. As the mud was removed, what was being revealed beneath was so vast that with each deeper cut, the entire team's heartbeats were beating faster. Looking down, Freddy said softly, "Guys, this is a monster, and this is just the top layer." That is, the night's digging proved it. There wasn't just gold, but a massive hidden fortune buried beneath, and no one could have realized it before digging. As the gold slabs in the first layer were exposed, Freddy thought the ground readings would return to normal, but the opposite happened. As he pushed the probe a little deeper, a strange metallic tang, tang sound emerged from below. The sound was like a solid metal plate, not sharp, but a hollow echo. Juan immediately looked at Freddy. "Bro, there's something else below. This sound isn't natural." The probe was inserted in a different direction, and the echo became even clearer. It seemed as if there was an empty chamber below, covered by a metallic layer. The weird thing was that the gold slabs that had been exposed in the first layer had so much weight that the ground would have compacted at the base. But the probe was moving smoothly, as if there was an empty space in between. Freddy bent down, closed his ears, and tapped the probe. The sound was exactly like an old rusted chamber. Some of the crew feared it might be an abandoned mine shaft, but the arrangement of the slabs suggested someone had set up this place, not an accidental cavity. Freddy digitally generated an echo map, and everyone froze at the reading. Beneath the ground lay a bowl-shaped cavity, as if someone had created a hidden pocket inside years ago. The edges of this cavity were emitting a metallic response, and a dense mass was visible in the center, meaning the second layer below was also laden with gold. This discovery had now become not just a jackpot, but a historical mystery. Below lay a clearly man-made or intentionally packed deposit. The gold unearthed so far was already a combination of heavy slabs, thick nuggets, and shiny crusts. The crew set up a temporary table in a corner and began weight calculations. The combined weight of the first 5 slabs came out to be approximately 62 kilos. Nuggets were placed on separate scales. Some were 12 kilo, some 8 kilos, some 4 kilo pieces. The total nugget haul had reached approximately 93 kilos. It was just slabs and nuggets. There was still fine gold and a deeper layer left. The lab purity test kit was activated, and readings ranged from 91% to 93%, considered very high purity by mining standards. Freddy wrote in his notes, "This is not normal placer gold. It's like refined gold." High purity meant something else. Someone had cleaned and hidden this deposit. It wasn't a naturally scattered placer deposit. Shock and excitement filled the crew's faces. Now the combined load calculation had to be done. The total weight of slabs and nuggets had already reached 150 kilos. Multiplied by the gold price, the value appeared to be around 9 or 10 million, and that was just the top layer. But when Freddy included the deeper sensor data, the actual estimate was revealed. The dense pocket inside the cavity was reading over 3 tons. It was insane. So much gold is rarely found in one place. Freddy began the calculations on his tablet. 3.1 tons requires approximately 3,100 kilograms. The market value of 3 on 100 kilo of gold costs roughly $120 million. Add $10 million for the top layer, and the total estimate comes out to be around 125 million. Juan literally recoiled at this. There was disbelief in his voice. "Bro, 125 million? Are we serious right now? Silence fell over the crew's faces. No one could speak. So much gold in one place, untouched for so many years and packed in layers. This wasn't every miner's dream. This was a life-changing miracle. Freddy showed everyone the data and said, "Guys, this isn't just a jackpot. Someone hid it, and the cavity underneath is the real key." Now only one question remained. If the top layer is so rich, what could be hidden in the second layer? And that question propelled the entire team to the next steps, because $125 million was just the beginning. Gold extraction had just begun when, by morning, the weather showed its true colors. Groundwater began rising so rapidly that the water level inside the pit was visibly rising every 10 to 12 minutes. Pumps were running at full speed, but the thickness of the mud and collapsing walls made the water flow uncontrollable. The pit walls slowly began to crack, and with each crack came a terrifying car sound, as if the entire wall could collapse at any moment. Freddy called the safety officer and asked, "If the walls weaken further, how long before the pit fills?" The officer replied fearfully, "Maybe 20 minutes, maybe less." Hearing this, the crew panicked. The machines struggled on the slippery ground, and the center of the pit was churning as if a giant mixer was running inside. If the water had risen any further, the entire deposit could have been lost back into the mud. Freddy shouted, "Turn the pumps up higher. We're not losing this." But the chaos didn't end there. Suddenly, a huge gush of water erupted from the edge of the pit, as if a pressure line had broken below. The outer layers of the walls began falling in chunks, each falling piece adding to the water. Juan shouted to the crew to retreat. "Move back! This entire ditch is still sliding." The machines had to be shifted to higher ground, otherwise both the excavator and loader would get stuck. The site had become a time bomb, and the time was ticking fast. Amidst this tension, as evening approached, two black SUVs slowly pulled up at the site entrance. At first, the crew thought it was a sponsor or miner arriving, but when they saw that all the SUVs' windows were darkly tinted and the vehicle's number plates were missing, a strange silence descended on the atmosphere. As soon as the doors opened, four men stepped out, all dressed in almost uniform style, their faces expressionless, and their gait resembling that of military-trained men. One of them walked straight up to Freddy and spoke in a flat tone. "We heard there's activity on this abandoned claim," Freddy replied cautiously. "Yes, we're conducting a cleanup survey." But the man asked again in a monotone, "Who owns this land? Who authorized this dig?" Their questions weren't just questions. They carried a hidden pressure. It seemed they had already heard of the gold, or were interested in this place for some other reason. The crew slowly retreated, looking at each other, as if the danger wasn't just from the water, but from these people as well. A man standing near Juan was constantly scanning the site, walls, pit, machines, every detail, as if he was in investigation mode. An officer looked at the pit and asked, "Depth?" Freddy thought before answering, and then cautiously said, "Around 18 feet." The officer, without changing his expression, said, "And what did you find?" This question wasn't normal. It seemed to be a precise, targeted question, as if they already knew something was hidden here. The crew's heartbeat quickened. Freddy leaned in and said, "Just routine material." But the men in the SUVs wanted the entire excavation stopped. They talked about permit papers, ownership disputes, and even suggested temporarily sealing the site. There was no fear or curiosity in their voices, just a cold control. Freddy looked at Juan. Both of them understood that this situation wasn't just about gold or weather anymore. Something bigger was going on here. And on top of that, the water in the pit had started rising again. The walls were cracking, the pumps were failing, and it was no longer possible to slow the site down even for a second. On one side was the danger of water, on the other side were people in mysterious SUVs, and in the middle lay an unimaginable $125 million gold stash. Freddy whispered through gritted teeth, "We're finishing this, no matter who shows up." And this moment was proof. The real battle had begun. The site was now facing a battle from two sides, rising water on one side, people in mysterious SUVs on the other, and above all, time pressure. Freddy and Juan had given clear orders. Machines will run 24/7. The crew barely got 10-15-minute micro breaks, eyes red, hands covered in mud, but everyone had the same fire. Stopping now meant losing the entire stash. The excavator and loader were removing mud nonstop, and suddenly in the middle of the night, a near accident occurred. The excavator's front arm slipped and nearly fell into the pit. The operator screamed loudly, but Freddy pulled it out. Despite the tension, the dig couldn't stop. The ground was becoming unstable as the deep cut was made. But with each cut, the golden shape beneath became clearer. After 15-20 minutes, something hard suddenly hit the side of the excavator's bucket. Thack! The sound made the crew freeze. The mud was removed and the entire structure was revealed for the first time. A huge 35-40 curry golden slab, so smooth that the entire pit glowed as soon as light fell on it. This slab was 3 times wider than the rest and about the thickness of a palm. The operator carefully tilted the bucket and the monster slab slowly emerged. The crew's breath literally stopped. The slab weighed so much that the machine had to be applied extra pressure to maintain balance. Juan, looking at the slab, said in a trembling voice, "Bro, this looks like a museum-level artifact." The slab's edges were perfectly straight. Nature doesn't create such perfect shapes. It was confirmed that this gold had been refined and deliberately converted into a compact slab. What happened as soon as the slab was removed turned the entire story upside down. The mud beneath the slab seemed to be sitting on a lid. As the slab was lifted, a thin, sealed opening was visible from below. The opening was rectangular, with faded carved marks along its edges. Very old, but clearly visible. Putting on gloves, Freddy touched the surface. It was smooth as if someone had polished it years ago. When he lightly tapped the opening, a sharp metallic echo came from below, meaning a hollow chamber existed beneath. The crew looked at each other in shock. This wasn't a natural formation. Someone had made it. Sometime in the past, for some unknown reason, someone had packed gold into this place and sealed it with a slab above, like a secret vault. Juan shone a torch on the carved lines beneath the slab. Symbol-like shapes faintly appeared, but so vague that no one could discern which era or group they belonged to. The suspense had now become greater than the gold itself. Digging had become more dangerous. The mud surrounding the opening was unstable, and there was likely a large cavity beneath. One wrong cut could cause the entire chamber to collapse. Freddy took a deep breath and said slowly, "Everyone, slow down. We won't disturb this opening until we've cleared the map." The crew nodded, but curiosity shone in their eyes, because what lay beneath could be a secret bigger than gold itself. Putting the slab aside, Freddy leaned over the opening and said, "If this was just the first pocket, what lies beneath?" This line echoed in the depths of the pit, as if the ground itself was responding. And now your killer CTA line, the one that will captivate, excite, and compel viewers to the next episode. Subscribe. If you miss the next twist, the whole story will remain incomplete. Because this wasn't just a jackpot, this was a buried mystery, and the real reveal was yet to come.